Hi, and welcome to My Favorite Conservative.
I'm Andrea.
And I'm Edward.
And I am not conservative, but he is my favorite conservative.
Amen.
All right. So we had the election, Edward.
We did.
We did.
Yes.
So what are we going to talk about? There's so many different places we could go, but I know you have one main point you want to talk about.
Election night was certainly interesting at the House. Would you say that? As we both kept waiting for this wave to come over us. And
well, I just waited for results that still haven't happened yet.
Well, that's true. And we're now many days after the election, and we still don't have answers for the House, at least. Yes. So
even governors.
And the governors.
Yes. So
that's true.
All right. So what are we talking about?
I wanted to talk about mail-in voting, I should say. I think that is the major issue that made this an election that should have easily gone to the Republicans, and they may just barely squeak out the House.
Okay. Well, I think they'll get the House. I don't think that's in question. But before you dive into your first point, would you just give our listeners a little bit of a frame of reference? Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Actually, I grew up and born and raised in the state of Florida for 50 plus years. I've been through some different cycles in Florida, where Florida used to be the laughingstock, going all the way back to 2000, 22 years ago. We're talking Bush Gore and the recount and hanging chads and dimpled chads and everything else. And that's kind of what started, I think, this whole journey that the Democrats have gone on in terms of how can we get an advantage in a recount, in close elections and whatnot. And that's where I think the whole mail-in balloting thing kind of originated.
Okay.
After that election in 2000.
For our young people, Google hanging chads.
That's right.
Continue.
Dimpled and hanging chads, correct. I've got a dimple on my hanging chad.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right.
In 2005, there was such concern about that election that they formed a federal election commission headed by Jimmy Carter, former President Carter on the left, and James Baker, former Secretary of State in the George H.W. administration. And their finding was the biggest danger to a safe and secure elections is absentee voting, read mail-in ballots.
Okay, I'm going to say that again. So the biggest danger, mail-in ballots.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Boy, that's a shocker. Yeah,
right? We're stunned.
Where are we now?
Okay.
Let's fast forward a little bit. We get to 2010. Obama, in his first midterm, loses 63 seats, a complete shellacking.
Yeah, it was.
He even admitted it. The Democrats.
Was that worse than Clinton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clinton lost 40 something, I believe, at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, the Democrats, I think, took that as a battle cry that this will never happen again. And they started, especially in the more liberal states, they started with more mail-in voting. They started ballot harvesting. And, fast forward up to 2016 and the Trump surprise, which I think completely...
Is that what we're calling it?
For Democrats, it's a bit of a surprise. Yeah.
More like a knockout, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And after that, the gloves were off, that this will never happen again. They have said that someone like Donald Trump will win close elections, and they went full bore on every mail-in voting. They extended voting days to weeks to months. Now we're into, I think we're almost 2 months in some states, and they just decided it's never going to be close again. And if it is close, we're going to win it.
Okay. Well, I just want to jump in here and say that when I was a kid, I remember that the only people who could mail in ballots initially were Americans serving in our military who were overseas. Totally makes sense. And then I believe they actually extended that to expats. So again, if you're an American, you're living overseas, even if you weren't in the military, you could have a mail-in ballot. And then it just, like you said, it just kind of slowly eroded that by the 2000s, my ex-husband works in the entertainment industry. And I actually believe it was the union that made this happen. They are not let off work. If you're working on a TV or a movie, you're working 12 plus hour days. They're not going to let you off in time to go vote in the election. So all members of those entertainment unions were allowed to do mail-in ballots. And that was not primarily in California, but I believe that's where it originated. So it seems like you said, it kind of slowly happened over time
Yeah.
until it was like, okay, this has to be done.
Yeah, it was the mission creep. Yeah, you had basically what you were talking about, the unions, and then, the military. There was also, older people that were infirm, that were in nursing homes, things like that, you had to have a good reason.
You had to have a very good reason to get a mail-in
correct.
ballot.
They would actually check them out and things. So, but now it is an absolute free-for-all. And I think, where we are right now is in many, many states, they will mail out ballots to every name on the voting list.
Ever.
Whether you're dead, whether you've moved, it doesn't matter. And when those ballots go out, they know where to go get them. They know how to harvest them, which means cheat pretty much. When you're letting a third party handle somebody else's ballot, that breaks the chain of command of that ballot, and it should be illegal.
Chain of command or chain of custody?
Or chain of custody, excuse me.
That's okay.
Thank you. Like this, think of military.
I know. Go ahead.
But yeah, so that's where we are now, where they have just flooded the zone, to use a football term, where they have just absolutely tried to overwhelm the whole system. And they realize if they do it this way, and they have done it this way the past couple of election cycles, that by the time they get caught, if they ever do, it's too late. And people just go, oh, we're just moving on to the next election, or they call you election deniers.
Well, so, I also want to add too, that I think social media plays into this as well. And I did not notice this in 2008. I didn't notice it in 2010 or 2012. I really only noticed it again since Donald Trump, where I was asked to register to vote multiple times from Facebook or Instagram, which of course is owned by Facebook. And I'm not going to register to vote through Facebook. Sorry, Mark, not happening. And that's a problem too.
Yeah, social media, the media in general. There used to be a joke among Republicans that you needed about 2 or 3 points of margin in terms of the margin to cheat, because you knew you were going to be down 2 or 3 points from the get-go, because there were going to be some shenanigans going. That's now, to me, I think that's up to at least 4 or 5%. And I think the media is another 4 or 5% on top of that. So Republicans, I think, start in about an 8 to 10% deficit. I don't know if you saw this last election cycle, they did a national review on the stories that the media was doing, and 67% of the stories for Republicans were negative. That's hard to overcome. It really is. So that's, just another obstacle that I don't know how it's going to be overcome, but social media is another one of those areas that Republicans need to get better at.
What do we do about it?
One place where there was a tsunami, a red tsunami, was my former state of Florida. Ron DeSantis absolutely killed it. Back 4 years ago when he won his first election, he won by, I believe it was 0.3%.
Yeah,
over Andrew Gillum, who was a horrible candidate, but was being pushed by the left as this new Barack Obama. Very fortunately, Ron DeSantis won that election with Trump's help, we will say, definitely with Trump's help. But when he got in, he went in to full mode of making it easier to vote and harder to cheat. They instituted voter ID laws. Voter ID laws nationwide among everybody, black, white, you name it, are 80%. 80% of the people think you should have to present ID.
Okay,
vote,
you need
right?
to clarify that.
Yes.
Okay, it sounded like voter ID laws were in 80% of the country. No. That's not what you meant.
Correct. That 80% of the people agree that you need a voter ID to vote. And for some reason, the Democrats think minorities just don't have the ability to present an ID. You need IDs for everything. Yes. I need an ID when I go see my doctor. You need IDs for everything. It's the epitome of the soft bigotry of low expectations. It really is, that they just can't do it. They're just not smart enough or whatnot. It's ridiculous. Everybody has an ID. And if you don't, most states give it to you for free and they help you out. So anyway. So what else did Florida do? Can you kind of go down the list of things that Florida did? They went back to, we're not mailing out ballots to everybody on the
Okay.
list. You have to request.
All right. So you have to request
absentee
mail.
ballot.
Okay. You have to
Correct.
request it. What
And
else?
there will be no ballot harvesting. No
No
third
ballot harvesting.
persons
Okay.
going around picking up ballots and then turning them in.
Okay.
There's also no drop boxes.
No drop box. Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
because all these drop boxes that you're seeing, where they place primarily in the minority communities in these big cities, somehow overwhelmingly like 100% vote for one candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the three main things that they did. And
so I just want to say those again for our audience. So they instituted voter ID laws, no ballot harvesting, and no drop boxes.
Correct.
Love it.
Yeah. And look what happened. Basically, almost the entire media was predicting came true in Florida, because they have the fairest and fastest, mind you.
Okay, that's the other thing we need to talk about. Yeah. So at the time of this recording, we are about a week out from the election, and we still don't know which party controls the Senate. I think we can say with confidence Republicans will take the House, maybe by not as many seats as they thought. And there's still all these outstanding gubernatorial races, and I'm saying it properly this time, including Kari Lake of Arizona.
Yeah, this is one of those typical, the Republican has the lead until they keep trickling in. And then as soon as the Democrat starts leading, that's it, we're done. So
wait, no, that's not true. No, that's not true with Kari Lake. No, it's not. Okay. This one's no. She's never had the lead in Arizona.
That's true.
Okay, she's never had
Blake Master.
But on election day, and many people have talked about this, on election day, they knew that there were voting machines that were screwing up in Maricopa County. And here's the real thing that gets me, regardless of party. The Secretary of State within a state runs the elections for those states. They oversee them. They're in charge. And Kari Lake's opponent for the governor on the Democratic side is Katie Hobbs. Yep. Is that her name? Katie Hobbs. She's the Secretary of State. How is that legal? Can someone please tell me how that's legal and how she didn't recuse herself? And she was asked to recuse herself when she declared that she was going to run over a year ago, and she did not. So that's just right for corruption.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it is legal to still maintain that relationship, but I think common sense and wanting to show that there is no malfeasance,
right?
Should somebody have that position, they should recuse themselves.
Yeah, because people are laughing at Arizona right now. They're laughing.
Yeah. Well, they were laughing 2 years ago. They're laughing today.
And Nevada too.
Nevada. I believe it's Nevada.
I think it's Nevada, but go ahead.
Again, that was one of those that was predicted. The entire state was going to go red. And I think it's about 90% Democrat now. So it's just another one of these mail-in ballot things where they can't get the results. They have trouble with the printers and they have trouble with this and that. And back to Arizona that you were talking about, 2 days before the election commission said, yeah, we're ready to go. We've got everything set and we've tested everything 1,000,000 times. And yeah, this is what happened. So you had California, Nevada, and Arizona counted a total of 70% of their votes, while Florida had 100% days before. I mean,
Florida had it that night.
Yeah.
That night they were done counting.
It is ridiculous. I think, we have to go back to some sort of semblance that you're going to get a result. If not that night, there should be about a 48-hour window of which the results have to be.
I agree with you that this started in 2000 because that's the first election I remember in my lifetime. And I'm quite a bit younger than you, but I remember my lifetime. Where it was shocking that we didn't have the results.
Yeah.
It was just shocking. And I stayed up all night and went to work the next day and was so just bleary-eyed, as many people were, because it was like, how do we not know who the president of the United States is? And that was the first time that had really happened.
That kind of started the ball rolling, and now we're paying the price.
Is there anything else? Because just so y'all know, there's like a laundry list here of stuff. I think we covered most of it, but I'm not sure.
I just have trouble accepting or understanding that, how does Pennsylvania vote for John Fetterman? How does that state go for Fetterman? I understand
Dr. Oz was not the best candidate, though, for
It
that
was
state.
not, but
It was not. He was a
talking
carpetbagger.
to a brain damaged individual.
I know.
How does Gretchen Whitmer?
Well, okay. Well, let's go back to Pennsylvania. To your point about these voter laws,
Correct.
People had been voting in Pennsylvania for 3 weeks before the one debate that Fetterman agreed to do.
Oh, yeah. I think it was longer than that. Yeah,
they've been voting for a long time.
I don't know even if it would have made that much difference, because
it might have.
Well, again, they have one of the loosest forms of election counting there. They send everybody ballots, and it is Philadelphia. They've always had problems, and they continue to do so. It makes zero sense. The issues that were out there.
And what were those issues?
Well, again, everybody's worried about the economy, right? The inflation is just through the roof. And Biden absolutely owns that. The Democratic Party absolutely owns that. And people vote for their pocketbooks. With their pocketbooks, I should say. And that you think that you're better off today than you were 2 years ago is absurd.
I believe the economy was the number one issue. However, there were some polls, not many, but some that said that was not the case in some places, that abortion was actually a much bigger issue than the Republicans thought it was going to be. And also, I think this is probably true in certain states. The border, of course, if you're in a border state, I'm sure that was right up there with the economy. Didn't the New York Times have a poll? And they're not conservative.
No, far from conservative. No. But yeah, basically 75% of the people in the country, 75% think we're on the wrong track. And, if you start with that as your main thought process on who's going to win the election, usually the party out of power, who has zero responsibility, who doesn't have the White House, doesn't have the House, doesn't have the Senate,
right,
should do better. You just see areas like we talked about, Pennsylvania and Michigan. Gretchen Whitmer, the governor in Michigan, is incredibly unpopular because she was one of the strictest lockdown
Closed
queens
schools,
of schools. But not only that, the hypocrisy where, she told people they couldn't get their haircuts, they couldn't buy paint at the store because, God forbid, they paint a bedroom or something while they're in lockdown, while she was flying down to Florida to visit her elderly mother privately and didn't make a big deal about it until she got caught. So those kind of things infuriate voters, the hypocrisy that these politicians.
She still won.
Well, that's my point, is it in the bag already before the votes are even counted? Right. My point is this should not even have been close. And when 3/4 of the country think we're on the wrong track, and the Republicans barely squeak out winning the House, if they do, and it's going to be 2 or 3 votes tops is all it's going to be, which is insane. It should be 30 or 40 votes they should have to lead by. So
okay, I thought it was going to be more than that.
They're struggling to get to that point.
Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a transition here, and we're going to talk about, because DeSantis had such an overwhelming victory, and really Florida just across the board, like you said, did everything right, has their election laws down tight. They've got it just dialed in, if you will. And Florida as a state overall is really prospering and thriving. There's been a lot of talk about DeSantis 2024. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean with Trump? Now, I just want to add that it tells me that Trump sees DeSantis as a threat, when only days before the election, he called him Ron DeSanctimonious.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That was so appalling to me. Not that I think Trump could necessarily sway an election, but it was like, come on, you guys are on the same team. And to me, Trump sees him as a huge threat. What are your thoughts about a Trump versus DeSantis primary and what that would look like?
In 2016, I was a Ted Cruz fan. I remember that. I thought Ted was the most conservative because he had proved he was. Donald Trump was a liberal, New York real estate person.
And no track record.
And I thought, oh, Lord, we can't trust this guy. But he was saying the right things. But I've been fooled before by people saying the right things and end up doing something completely different. I was thrilled the way he governed in his first term. I absolutely love what he did. He had a lot to battle in terms of the establishment and everything.
Yeah, but he didn't hesitate to talk to reporters every day.
No, No, he was the most accessible president ever.
Ever.
He
For
talked to
sure.
him every day on the way to the helicopter for 30 minutes. He would stand there and field questions. Awesome. He can do that. The only chink that I saw in his armor was when COVID started. And when you and I were talking, this was, March of 2020. And I looked at you and I said, and he started talking about Fauci and the lockdowns. And I said, he's getting played. He's absolutely getting played right now. We don't have to do this. And he did, unfortunately, because I get it. He was in a no-win situation.
He was in a no-win situation.
If you don't lock down and people die, then, you're the killer.
There was no win there. There wasn't.
It's difficult, but I think we just let it go on too far. So fast forward now, obviously Ron DeSantis owes his political career to Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis, me being from Florida again, was way down in his original campaign 4 years ago. He was down to a guy named Andrew Putman, who comes from a long line of Florida politicians.
Are we talking about primary now?
Yeah, in the primaries.
Got to give us some clarity here.
Right.
Okay.
Donald Trump saw DeSantis as a true conservative, went in, did some huge rallies for him, and DeSantis shot to the top of the ticket.
And this was before Trump was even president. No, this was 2018.
2018.
Okay, all right.
So he was president.
16. Okay.
Yeah, he threw in, which is rare for a president to jump into a primary, but he did. And so kudos for Trump to saying that, kudos for DeSantis to accepting it and, getting the nomination and winning and all that good stuff. I think Ron DeSantis has been an amazing governor. Yes. Absolutely amazing governor. Everybody says he's Trump with softer edges, but Trump came out on his True Social, calling DeSantis an average governor of an average state, and
a state that Trump lives in now, resides in.
Moved there. It breaks my heart in terms of
it's so
Trump.
Childish.
You don't need to do that. Yeah,
it's childish. Exactly. He just acts like a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah, from times at times he does.
Well, that time he did.
Agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I think DeSantis is being smart, staying above the fray.
Yep.
Do I think DeSantis should run? I do. He is absolutely white hot at the moment, and that's what scares Trump. That's what
it is what scares Trump.
And I get it. Trump has great political instincts.
Yeah, he does.
Now, I am of the mind that whoever wins, Trump or DeSantis, I will vote for them. So it's not like you're going to lose me if you insult the other guy or whatever.
Well, but there are a lot of people, and I've been listening to a lot of shows, and especially the ones where people call in. Everyday people. And that's why I feel like you get the best sense of what's going on the ground. And what I find interesting is the number of people who are conservative, but are in the never Trumpers. So even if Trump gets through the primary, beats DeSantis and whomever else gets in, they're not going to vote for him. But there's also the other side where people are so pro-Trump that they're saying they wouldn't vote for DeSantis. Like they're not, you have common sense. I don't understand why at the end of the day, the primary is going to be a battle, whichever way it goes, but why at the end of the day would you not vote? I don't know.
Well, what I'm seeing out there is the Trump team is trying to paint DeSantis as establishment rhino kind of person.
Which is not true.
It's not.
No.
Let me throw this in here right now. If Ron DeSantis wins a nomination and goes mushy, I will be the first one to throw him overboard. He has proven so far in Florida.
Wait, so you wouldn't vote for him if he wins the nomination and doesn't?
I would if he were to win the nomination and whatnot, but all of a sudden decided to be a centrist, I'm out. Absolutely. We don't need any more Paul Ryans. I don't either, but that's my caveat here. So I think he is a rock solid conservative. I really do.
Okay.
When people talk about, the never Trumpers, the National Review kind of conservatives that will never vote for Trump, they're also never going to vote for DeSantis either.
You don't know that.
Well, because what's going to happen is the media, if Trump is taken down, the media will go after DeSantis.
They will.
And they will make him look like, the third coming of Hitler after Trump was the second coming. And the never Trumpers, they're so weak anyway that they will abandon and they'll vote Democrat or they won't vote at all, whatever. With Trump, he still has a lot of baggage, right? I mean, from his past businesses and everything else. That's one thing that excites me about Ron DeSantis. Rock solid conservative from so far what we've seen in 4 years, has no scandals to speak of. He's young, He's got 3 little kids. They haven't gotten in trouble yet.
Yeah,
They haven't
yeah.
maybe bit somebody in
They're too
kindergarten or
young.
whatever, right? They'll try to make something up, but so far I don't see anything that they could hang on DeSantis. And the reason I said I think DeSantis should run, I said he's white hot right now, and governing for another full 4 years, they, meaning the media, the left, will try to hang anything on him over that time frame. So you're giving the left a much bigger time frame to come up with dirt on you.
Well, I'm going to go in a different direction. Can we just bring a Gen Xer in? Please. I'm done with the old dudes. I'm a Gen Xer.
Okay, explain Gen X.
Okay, Gen Xers, well, it used to be a 20-year period, but not anymore. So Gen Xers now are people who were born between 1966 and 1979, 1980. Those are Gen Xers. I'm a Gen Xer. And so I'm like, can we just bring in some young blood, please, please?
Yeah, it would be interesting.
No more Hillary. No. We don't want you to run again, okay? I wrote you in as a candidate in 2008. I really did. I wanted you. Okay, he's making faces. All right. I wanted you to win, lady. I did. I was
a bullet there.
I was pro Hillary in 2008, and then you let me down in 2016. So no more baby boomers. We are moving on.
I would just love to see a debate stage with Joe Biden at one podium and Ron DeSantis at the other.
Oh God, they're not going to let Biden run again. Okay, that's a whole nother
that's a whole nother show. That would be fun to watch. That would be fun to watch.
That would be sad.
I just want to see a conversation between Biden and Fetterman.
We already saw that.
Well, we saw mumbling, so I want to see a real sit down.
That. So. You can put a clip to it. When Biden stumped for Fetterman, and Fetterman just stood behind him like this giant ogre and didn't say a word. And like you said, Biden mumbled a few sentences, and that was it. So I don't want to see that. That's boring. Okay.
It's kind of like watching a slow motion train wreck.
No, it's sad. Okay, it's sad.
Yeah. So the Senate's gone.
Wait,
the Democrat won in Nevada, one in Arizona. They have 50 right now. It's just a question whether they're going to have 51
with Georgia,
Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock.
How did I not know this? I'm gone.
You were
one
on
day.
a retreat. Yes,
I'm gone one day.
See, things happen.
I thought it was winning.
He was until they found more votes for the other person and they called the election. So that's the way it always went. Yay.
This reminds me so much of an episode of Veep where she was running for president, and during the series, season 4 or 5-ish, she's running for president, she loses, and then they find these ballot boxes stuffed full of ballots for Selena in Nevada, and she did not win because those were taken away from her. So
yeah. Shocker. Mirrors real life. Yeah,
it does. So
Senate's gone. House is going to be very, very close.
Okay, so this was so much worse than I thought.
Yeah. We could go down rabbit holes with Mitch McConnell, but we won't.
We won't. Thank you so much for watching and listening to My Favorite Conservative. I'm Andrea.
I'm Edward.
And I am not conservative, but he is my favorite conservative.
Thank you.
Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.